All right, I'd like to call this public hearing for May 10th, 2016 to order and convene the board as a budget committee. Thank you all for being here. The board has set aside this evening to hear your comments on the proposed budget. Since there are many of you here to testify, asked to hold your comments to 3 minutes. There'll be a light that starts it off, green, yellow, red, and when red comes, that is the time to stop. And that would allow other people to speak. Likewise, if you're with a group that has multiple speakers, it would be great to come up and speak, but for the sake of time and allowing other folks and other topics, try not to be repetitive, and you could state your support, and that's very meaningful to us. We've also scheduled an additional public hearing for Tuesday, May 17th at Madison High School cafeteria, and that will begin at 6 p.m. Child care tonight is available in the Y-East conference room, level L1 downstairs. And we do have interpreters tonight, and I'd like to have them come up and introduce themselves.
Hi, I'm Ann. I'm the interpreter. So it's a parent who needs terminating
Yeah, that's all.
Hi, isgo Mohammed haddii oo joogo qof af Soomaali ku hadlayo aniga oo joogo halkan.
Hi, my name is Renee. I'm the Chinese interpreter. 你好，我是方小姐，我是中文翻译。
Hi, my name is Daniel. I'm a Spanish interpreter. Si alguien necesita español, un intérprete de español.
Hello, my name is Daria. I'm a Russian interpreter. Здравствуйте, меня зовут Дарья, я русский переводчик.
All right. So, thank you. Ms. Houston, can you call up our first speakers?
Sure. We have Charlie Abrams and Karanja Cruz.
Welcome.
Hi, my name is Charlie Abrams. I'm a 6th grader student at Selwood Middle. Along with my friend Jeremy Clark, we started a blog called Two Green Leaves, where we work to educate other kids about climate change. We've been on Think Out Loud, invited to work with climate activist organizations around Oregon, and will travel to Washington, D.C. to advocate on behalf of students for effective climate change policy. Recently, we hosted a table at Dunaway Elementary's Earth Day celebration, where students could learn about climate change and what choices they and their parents could make to help reduce their impact. Some students didn't know what climate change was, and although we're upset to understand what's happening, they were excited to learn what they could do to help it. For Jeremy and I, education is our #1 goal. Our generation cannot wait for the big kids to get their hands dirty. My generation must lead and demand our schools and governments to enact strong climate policy that we all deserve. According to a study by Eric Polzer at Penn State, only half of science teachers tell their students that human man-made greenhouse gas emissions cause climate change. What is the other half saying? 30% say humans are partially to blame, 5% say it's up for debate, and 1% says it's natural. But it's hard to argue with the fact that 97% of scientists say climate change is real and human-caused. When proven wrong, teachers often say that they didn't get proper training or that textbooks are outdated. But if I can learn about climate change on my own in 2 to 3 years with my friend, why can't the teachers and the school district? PPS needs to update textbooks to adequately educate students about climate change and weave environmental education into core subjects. At Dunaway, where I attend elementary school, I had the opportunity to join a junior green team, where we worked to educate our peers about environmental issues. We worked with our school counselor at the time, Kate Mowry, with mentorship provided at the adult green team, who are part of the Eco School Network. At Dunaway, we collected food waste and rinsed milk cartons at lunch, had opportunities to learn in the school garden, and collected pens and glue sticks for programs that even turned these materials into fuel. Many parents bring these ideas into the school, though green teams, gardens, and other green programs, but not all schools have these opportunities available to all students. Although I have a great science teacher at Selwood, we don't have a garden. We now throw all food waste and recyclables away at lunch. And although we do get to attend outdoor school for a week, thank you, there are few opportunities to learn outside or connect with the natural world. All students at PPS deserve schools that provide consistent, standardized sustainability practices and opportunities. These programs need to be implemented by the district, not just parents. I support the work of the Eco School Network and ask that you approve their budgetary request to conduct an independent waste audit of the district. Add a conservation staff person, establish a working group to develop and implement a resource conservation plan across the district. Portland Public Schools, please become a district that gets the facts right about climate change through our day-to-day actions in how the buildings operate and function, and what you teach us students, because we have to get busy addressing climate change. We're running out of time. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Wow, I have to follow that?
You do.
Oh my goodness.
And also, you got to stop when it's red.
All right. Wow. Can we give that young man another hand? Oh my goodness. Okay, so this is after rushing through traffic. So hopefully my time hasn't started. So, all right, here we go. You ready? Okay. All right, how you guys doing?
Good.
Good. Thank you for this opportunity, Chair, Co-Chair, to be able to testify in front of the board. So I'm just going to read this off. So PPS has been a great supporter of the Teaching with Purpose Conference, but I'm here to let you guys know that the Teaching with Purpose is not just a conference, but Teaching with Purpose is a culturally relevant pedagogy and practice that is based around 3 principles of having high expectations, developing relationships with students and staff, and providing culturally relevant materials for students. Unfortunately, the work and the potential of these projects have been largely unrecognized in the budget for this year. While nationally known scholars from around the country who have coined the term culturally relevant pedagogy, culturally responsive pedagogy, have participated in the Teaching with Purpose Conference along with the Leadership Institute, the Teaching with Purpose has been recognized on a national level. I had the opportunity to review the budget proposal based on the district priorities. I did not see a concrete focus on culturally responsive practice training for leaders and teachers. However, I saw an allocation for $200,000 for a culturally relevant material website. So my question is, what is the plan for that? How does that provide training for staff around culturally responsive practice? And so hopefully you can answer that at another time. Teaching with Purpose is woven into other initiatives within your budget. Teaching with Purpose is a focused initiative that should be a priority focus in your particular budget. The Teaching with Purpose work reinforces the power that equitable education can have a changing educational climate that can bring about change in student outcomes. PPS has leveraged the work of can leverage the work of Teaching with Purpose and could use the means to transform our educational system into a more equitable system. I'm requesting that PPS reconsider what they put their dollars in strategic initiative investments and allow me the opportunity to present before the board a longer time to actually show you actual outcomes and actual results and objectives of things that we can accomplish that relates to culturally responsive practice. I'm putting this call out Basically, I've been putting the call for culturally responsive practice since 2001, and I'm asking you to, again, consider funding for a culturally relevant curriculum camp that we want to host this summer, which is something that's concrete that teachers can participate in and actually develop their own units and lesson plans and courses. I'm also asking that you fund scholarships to allow up to 300 teachers to attend the Teacher with Purpose, the 7th annual Teacher with Purpose Conference in October. Believe we had a total of 200 teachers last year. That's not even 10% of the total population of teachers we have in this district. So I'm looking to expand that, to have more teachers involved in the conference, and I hope you guys consider the Teacher with Purpose Conference for your budget consideration.
Thank you.
You want to say something real quick?
Karanja, can you make sure that your budget request per se is at the, if you have specific
got it.
figures, make sure that we have
Yep,
it.
she got
Okay,
it, she
thank
got
you.
it.
Okay,
Thank you.
yep,
Thank you.
thank you.
Next, we have Zalika Gardner and Keisha Robinson.
Welcome.
Thank you. Good to be here. I'm Zalika Gardner. I'm a co-founder and current principal at Kairos PDX Learning Academy. And I'm acutely aware that last time I was here, it was talking about our charter application, this like crazy 400-page thing that is now a reality. And it was an incredible honor then to receive the unanimous support of the school board, and we left elated and energized and so committed to being on mission with all of you to close the achievement gap and really reflect the brilliance of all of our kids, but especially our Black and brown kiddos. And I feel that again. I feel that same sense of gratitude as I sit in front of you all today. And believe it or not, even more passionately committed because now I have babies, I have kids, I can see them, I can see what's happening, and I have incredible families who come and have been a part of our Kairos family. And we understood then and we understand now how important the work of equity is and how difficult the decisions are around allocation of resources toward equity. It requires really tough choices, and it requires a courageous stance. And I want to commend PPS for taking that stance, being willing to name race, being willing to name the issues that need to happen, and creating something like an equity allocation, even allowing something like that and committing to something like that and naming something like that is something that we support and commend. And we're here to say we're with you. We're doing the work. We are just simply asking for the support of that for our families. We're not asking for anything additional. We're just asking to be considered in that equity allocation. We are serving the very kids that equity allocation was designed to serve. And we're partners with you, and so we're asking you to consider us partners in that work. And I'm going to quickly, well, you go first and then I'll do the rest. Go. Thank you very much for the time.
Thank you.
So as a parent of a PPS or a Kairos student, I've taken some time to kind of review and look at your equity clause. And some of the things that I noticed that it says specifically is you're committed to culturally relevant work. You're committed to curriculum support for African American kids. You're committed to expecting high academic achievement for all children. And so what I take away from that is Kairos is committed to helping parents to satisfy those three achievements, but for us to be able to achieve the goal, we need support. Kairos has found many different ways to achieve that goal. We went to Multnomah County, and we're starting to create mental health programs for our children because we know for African American families that there is a stigma around that, and we're trying to close that gap. We've created mentor programs through the Holler program, so that's another program that we've started to create. The parents, the Kairos family, the Kairos Family Council is starting to try to come up with a program called Hey Come Play, and it's connecting our family and our children. And so what we're asking is not for anything less than what any other school district does, but we're asking for you really to take those dollars, bring it into the district, and really start to try to serve our African American children. What we know is just for charter schools overall, we already have a different allocation about how the budget already works, and we know that allocation is somewhat different than what happens in Portland Public Schools. And so we're asking that you take the specific allocation that is already needed for lost my train of thought. We're asking that you take the specific allocation for yes, for Black and brown kids and support Kairos in our vision. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm going to read one thing real quickly from someone who was in traffic and unable. A parent. Our children are. Oh, is she here? Oh. Or I could have her say it instead. Yes.
All right, why don't you state your name?
Hi. I'm Deanna Weston Mitchell. I am the parent of a kindergartner at Kairos. I fully understand that designing and managing a multi-million-dollar budget is a massive undertaking. It's as governments grow and we begin to see that we've got to pay more attention to our role in creating a more equitable society. It is easy to overlook a detail. Adding charter schools that qualify into the equity allocation fund calculations only make sense. It seems to be an oversight. Our children are PPS students. When they began attending Kairos, they did not all of a sudden become higher income. They did not change their skin color. Our children continue to face systemic racism through multiple institutions. Attending Kairos does not increase a family's income or remove all the negative impacts that poverty creates. The Equity Allocation Fund was created in recognition of the unfair additional hurdles that some students face. Please include Kairos students in those allocations.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Next, we have Lydia Gray Holyfield and Cameron Foster.
Thank you for having us and allowing us to speak. I have a short story. My name is Cameron Foster, and I'm the mother of two students, twin girls at Kairos in kindergarten. And I just wanted to share a quick story about how important Kairos is to my family and to this community, to give some perspective on what the women before me spoke on. I lived in Connecticut and was raising my children out there in Greenwich, Connecticut, and they were a part of the Portland Public School District, which is a very good school district. But my child was 3% of the 3% of students that were of color in the school that she attended. And in 4th grade, my oldest child was having an identity crisis, and I freaked out. And I said, I got to do something, you know? And so on the table, I was weighing my child's self-esteem and her future as the way she looks at herself as a woman of color, and her education. And that was a big battle for me. So I decided that her self-esteem was extremely important to me, and I picked up and I moved to Portland, and now she, as well as my youngest two, the twins, are a part of Portland Public Schools, and I'm very proud of that. I'm proud of the diversity that's at Kairos, and that my youngest girls are a part of that, are able to see women of color in leadership roles as the principal, as staff, as teachers. It's extremely uplifting for me and hopeful for me as a mother of children of color that they will be able to look up to these women and have something to aspire to when they grow, as they grow up. Yeah, that's basically what I have to say, and that kind of is just my way to give some perspective on what it is that we're asking for today with this equity allocation, and that these students, although it is a charter school, are part of Portland Public Schools, and these are our babies, and we care deeply for them, all of them. So, thank you.
Thank you.
So my name is Lydia Gray Holyfield, and I have a first grader at Kairos PDX, and I want to talk about partnership, which is what we have with PPS as a partnership. I want to also talk about collaboration, which is what we also have as a class, as a school in whole. And one of the reasons why I chose for my daughter to go to Kairos is because I also have a 23-year-old that also went through Portland Public Schools. And so I chose Kairos because, again, like my counterpart said, I wanted my daughter to have someone that looked like her, that cared about her, and someone that loves her unconditionally. And I also wanted her to see what leadership looks like and what brilliance looks like. One of the reasons also I chose Kairos is because I recognized that it was a need in our community for our children to be there. My daughter has been there since she was in kindergarten. This next year she will go into second grade at Kairos as well. I want to make sure that you understand the importance of why we need this money allocated for our children, because they're just as important as any other children that are in the district. We're asking that our children be included, that our children be thought about, that our children definitely be considered at Kairos, because they are important as well. We have a lot of Black and brown children that are at Kairos, and they need that money just as well as anyone else. Just because we're a charter school doesn't mean that our children don't need to be treated the same way as any other children in this district. So we're asking you to please take in deep consideration about including our children when you're looking at the allocation of this funding. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we have Julia Meyer and Kristen Teigen.
Good evening, Julia Meyer. I'm with the Coalition of Communities of Color, and we're an alliance of culturally specific community-based organizations. I want to share sort of a handful of priorities in this budget with you, and just so you understand our process, we have 19 member organizations from diverse communities of color, and we come together to really think through the Portland Public Schools budget and where are the greatest opportunities to improve outcomes for students of color. So what I'm going to share is really the result of that consensus-based decision-making process across a lot of different organizations and a lot of different communities. There's 4 areas sort of greatest import to us. The first is the equity allocation, and I'll come back to all of these. The second is ethnic studies. The third is partnerships with culturally specific community-based organizations. And the last one is supporting emerging bilingual students. And I know today, you already heard from Kairos, you'll hear from other coalition members tonight, and probably even more you're hearing on May 17th. But I just want to speak briefly to some of these priorities so you have them in your heads when you hear from specific organizations. In terms of the equity allocation, we are huge supporters of its expansion to Kairos and to charter schools in general who have populations that we believe the equity allocation is meant to cover. Our second priority around the equity allocation is increasing accountability, so ensuring that the dollars that are going to schools are being used in a way where we can measure outcomes and what impact they're having on students of color in those schools. In terms of ethnic studies, I was here at the board meeting where you all voted for it, so thank you to all of you. That was one of the best board meetings I've been to in a long time. And so we just want to make sure that we have the right development costs in the budget for this year so that we actually do that work well that you already set the stage for. The third area is partnerships with culturally specific CBOs. There's sort of a handful of partnerships that have been vital, and we are hugely supportive of and ask that you continue to support them. There's a partnership around exclusionary discipline, the Jefferson Whole School Model, culturally specific youth and family engagement, Juntos Aprendemos as an early childhood program, and a couple that I want to call out that don't actually have budget items, budget lines this year, but we want to work with you on. The first is culturally specific mental health services, which is completely underinvested in this entire community. We don't think it's the sole responsibility of PPS, but we think we need to partner with PPS, and then environmental education. And very briefly, lastly, bilingual education, bilingual arts integration, continuing the investment in bilingual educational assistance, which I know is in the superintendent's budget, expanding Cantonese and Mandarin language immersion, and not cutting the Vietnamese dual language immersion program. And we really believe that by making this set of investments, students of color will sort of disproportionately benefit, but by improving outcomes for our most vulnerable students, all of PPS's students benefit. Thank you.
Thank you.
It's kind of, it's a little cruel to have to come after Julia, but I will try. My name is Kristen Teigen, and I'm here to, first off, thank you for including ethnic studies in the curriculum for Portland Public High School students. I'm going to speak tonight on a couple different capacities. The first is as an instructor at Portland State University, where for the past 4 years I have taught the history of communities of color using a lot of the research that Julia's organization developed. So many of my students, most of whom who were raised in the Portland area, are justifiably angry when they start to learn about the history of Oregonians of color. You know, that we have exclusions, the history includes exclusions, violence, removal, starvation, disease, brutal working conditions, the internment, displacements, and deportations. But it's not just the history that makes them really angry after a while. It starts to sink in that they haven't been taught any of this in their high school curriculum. They haven't been taught anywhere any of this history. And so they begin to realize, particularly if they're students of color, that there has been another exclusion. There has been another displacement of their own narratives from the general narrative of the state of Oregon. One of my students decided that it was a lie of omission, that it must be very purposeful to not be told. So thank you for agreeing on the importance of it being told. Second off, I'm a parent. If you see a redhead, they're mine, any redhead in the room. And I know that raising children in an increasingly multicultural Oregon is probably best done if we absolutely tell them the truth. I think that culturally and psychologically, children are better off in nearly every circumstance if they are told the truth. And I know that my children will be better prepared, more understanding, and more equipped as citizens to know as much as possible about the history of our state. So the final capacity I wanted to chat about and why I'm here is I know I've been an anti-oppression trainer in a number of different capacities, and I know it is so much easier said than done, right? You have this wonderful intention, you want to get to a different place, but then implementing it is very difficult. So in terms of the budget of Portland Public Schools, I really appreciate the fact that you're considering taking the next steps. I wanted to speak specifically in favor of the Apano and Ally student developed budget that deals with the next steps, because I'm really excited. Frankly, after teaching this subject matter for years, I'm thrilled to be welcoming students into my classroom in a couple of years who maybe will put me out of business. I won't have to teach anymore. Not that I don't love it. So thank you for your support, and I really look forward to the next steps of what you're looking to implement.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We have Karn and Karina from Apano.
You guys look really familiar. Have you been here before?
Every week. Hi, my name is Karn with the Asian Pacific American Network of Oregon and Ally API Leaders for Liberation of Youth. I'm going to talk about two things today. I think first off, I just want to thank the board for passing that resolution last week on ethnic studies, making sure that we'll have ethnic studies in all our schools within 2 years. The Oversight Committee and the Student Advisory Council, that was really cool. Our youth were really excited about it. I'm still excited about it. Today, I think we want to talk more about the money part. So we have, our youth came up with a budget before, and we want to make sure that the board, we know the board is committed or has passed the racial equity policy in 2011, stating its commitment to closing the achievement gap, making sure that all students of color have the same opportunities to be successful in school. So we want to make sure that the board is accountable to that. And then the first step is We created a budget. We're asking for $60,000 to help fund the Oversight Committee and the Student Advisory Council. We want half that money to go towards helping fund a full-time staff to consolidate a lot of the curriculum that's already out there. We know there's stuff out there in the high school level, in the middle school level, and the college level. We want to make sure we get all that research together in one place. Convene stakeholders, interested parties, community leaders, students, parents, community, other community folks in that oversight committee, and help coordinate everything that looks like in terms of implementation, teacher training, and working with other community orgs to make sure that everything that is supposed to be in that program is in that program. And then also to help supervise the Student Advisory Council, we're looking at having, as part of that Student Advisory Council, 5 youth be part of that Student Advisory Council, putting in 10 hours a week for 40 weeks at $15 an hour for a total of about $30K. So with the combination of Student Advisory Council and the staff person, we came up with $60,000. So yeah, we hope we can get that money. And then the next part is, this is about the Vietnamese Dual Language Immersion Program, and I'm gonna read a statement on behalf of our parent organizing program and the Vietnamese VNCO. The Vietnamese community of Oregon, along with other community partners, believe that teacher cuts are being made too prematurely, as the program is only 2 years old. As we stated in our letter to the board, there are many institutional areas of improvement within PPS that, if addressed, can and will lead to more enrollment. PPS has not adhered to its own policies regarding transportation and supports to communities of color that's spelled out in the Superintendent's Advisory Committee on Enrollment and Transfer. PPS needs to improve in these areas first before making a decision to cut teachers in this program. I'd like to read a paragraph from a parent, Phung Nguyen, about the program. I feel so blessed on how much my daughter has gained from being in this amazing program. Not only has it accomplished my goal, allowing her to learn and maintain our Vietnamese language, but has also allowed her to connect with us, her parents, and her grandparents on a deep cultural level. The wonderful teachers have taught not only how to read, write, and speak, but also songs and dance that she has performed for all of us, many times with joy and enthusiasm. My parents' English is limited to non-existent, so that generation gap is huge, but all that she has learned this year has really closed that and brought a great sense of pride for everyone in our family. A connection within 3 generations of Vietnamese immigrants, the joys of singing childhood songs, and dance that brings us closer together, and a great sense of pride for being Vietnamese Americans in this great country. Please don't cut teachers in this amazing program. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So hi, I'm Karina. I go to Benson. I'm 15. I'm an ally leader. So as a youth of color, it's hard to get a job, or not even as a youth of color, just as a youth, it's hard to get a job, especially since I'm 15 right now. Like most jobs only hire at 16 and above. And so with that money though, if I were to get a job, I would be helping with like family, because lots of times youth of color have family problems because they come from low income families, and they are strongly suggested to help their families to help support financially. This Student Advisory Council would help youth be able to support their families and just have money, because youth always, it's good to have money. And this also gives them an idea of what it's like to have a job. This gives them the experience of what it's like to have, like 10 hours a week, this discipline of, committing responsibilities, and also gives them just opportunities. This could also help them when they're applying for other jobs with a work experience and just applying for anything they need when it comes to their adult future. This also would help them advocate for themselves and give them, the opportunity to advocate for themselves and get paid to do it. So like, you obviously everyone likes to get paid for what you love. Obviously you guys wouldn't be here if you didn't, love what you do. So.
We don't get paid, just for the record.
Oh, you don't? Oh,
I
whoops.
get paid in appreciations.
Whoops.
High fives.
Yeah. So, yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we have Holly Cook and Sarah Mahaley.
We'd break the bank if we did. You would, for sure. Welcome.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Holly Cook. I'm the mom of 2 students at Sunnyside Environmental School. I'm speaking tonight as a member of Parents for Preparedness, which is a peer-to-peer network of parents concerned with earthquake safety in our schools. P4P includes members from 15 school communities, mostly in southeast and northeast Portland. But we're growing. Many of our children attend schools that are approaching 100 years old, as you know. When we get together, we discuss topics like efforts to reduce the non-structural hazards in our children's schools, such as bookcases and other things that can fall on students and teachers during an earthquake, increasing classroom emergency supplies and comfort kits, and ways to locate and furnish emergency supply caches on school grounds to provide life-saving water, first aid, and food. We are in regular contact with PPS staff about these topics. PPS employees are currently taking initiative to win grants from Multnomah County, the state of Oregon, and even FEMA to address school hazards and make schools safer. We support these initiatives, but grants are not always awarded and they are not always renewed. It's time to make a continuing commitment through the district's operating budget to give facilities and security services staff the resources they need to make steady progress removing non-structural hazards, replacing dangerous equipment, training teachers and staff, and preparing schools to serve students and community in the event of a disaster. So the proposed $450,000 increase in the maintenance budget is not quite enough. I'm sure you saw that coming. We urge you to grow the increase further to $500,000 to pay for classroom and school level safety improvements. The additional $50,000 could buy natural gas shutoff valves for 24 schools, for example, or it could fund comprehensive non-structural hazard reduction projects at 4 elementary or middle schools as a pilot phase of a broader effort. We also ask you to consider an increase in staff capacity for preparedness, training for teachers and administrators. Just like the modernization of our schools that will take several bond cycles, safety and preparedness require continuous improvement. That depends on continuous investment. So I urge you to please begin now. Earthquakes are a no-notice hazard to our schools and our children. Being prepared for them is a responsibility that we all share. It's time for the district's budget to reflect that responsibility. Thank you.
Thank you.
I have
Yeah,
So, Holly, I had a quick question.
Yeah.
So do you have an actual budget proposal? You talked about some specific items for that $50,000. Is there something written up that we can look at?
We can put something together by next week. We talked about that as a group.
Okay,
If
that'd
that
be
would
great.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes.
welcome.
Thank you. I'm Sarah Mahaley. I am a parent of 2 children in the PPS system, one at Selwood Middle and one at Llewellyn. And I want to thank you for allowing me to testify here this evening. I'm coming here to ask for you to please allocate 1 more full-time teaching position at Llewellyn Elementary School, and for that allocation to be made prior to the beginning of the school year. We have a history at our school of having a lot of crowding with frequently, I don't know that there's a child in a grade that hasn't had at least once, and if not twice, more than 30 children in their class, 31 and up. There was a couple years ago a redistricting effort that moved some children out of the school, so our lower grades have smaller numbers, but our upper grades have larger numbers still. The plan when we did that redistricting was to keep 4 sections of each grade for the students who were initially overcrowded, and that the redistricting would allow us to move down to 3 sections per grade. The budget for next year, as it's been submitted to us, only allows does not allow for 4 sections at both the 4th and 5th grade, which is what would have been part of that plan in the redistricting. We should still have those 4 to get those kids through. So that puts, if we have 4, you can see the paper that I handed out, the right-hand 3 columns. show what would be projected for next year, a couple of different ideas. So if we keep 4 sections at 4th grade and 3 sections at 5th grade, we end up with children in class of 33 in the 5th grade, which is really high, and we know that kids learn better in smaller classes. The second section there where it talks about staffing size with a 4th-5th split. 4th-5th split was a proposal to decrease class size. We're a creative crew because we share our cafeteria with our auditorium, with our music room. Yeah, all 3 the same room. So we're up for creative solutions, but even with a 4th-5th split, we've got 29 kids in that classroom, and to ask a teacher to begin a new curriculum, try to combine our curriculums, combine our classes, a lot of effort to put forth to get that made, to get that 4th-5th split established, and then to ask them to do it with a 29 child class is a big ask for that. Even if we reduce the size of the 4th-5th class, the other 4th and the other 5th classes grow back up above 30 again. The other thing is, as you see, the class sizes get smaller, so hopefully it would just be a 1 year. We wouldn't need a 4th-5th split to continue throughout time. So,
Thank you.
Thank you.
Superintendent Smith.
Next we
Superintendent,
have-
excuse me, is the Office of School Performance still in the process of doing staffing adjustments?
I think they did the majority of the adjustments they're going to do, but we'll pass this along to them.
Okay.
So, for this part of the year, the other big batch happens next fall.
Right,
So,
but prior to
yeah.
fall.
So I have talked to Antonio about this. This is on the watch list. So, but, sorry, it's on the watch list. I think the issue is the issue that we had last year. How soon can we make the correction? And obviously, it would be great if the correction was made before the school year started, even though we were quicker this year. So,
Next, we have Julie Akilazan and Beth Melnick.
Hi, my name is Julie Akilazan. I've been a teacher with Portland Public Schools for 27 years. It's been an awesome career. Currently, I teach 2nd grade at Dunaway Elementary School. I serve on the CARE, Equity, and Positive School Climate teams. For the past 7 years, I've also been a member of the Dunaway Green Team. I volunteer many hours of my time on this team because I believe it is important for children to learn about the natural world they live in, the challenges facing the environment, and actions they can take care of the earth. When I moved to a new classroom a few years ago, I noticed a bare concrete courtyard outside the window. I thought to myself, that would be an awesome garden space. I went to the Green Team and asked if they were interested in taking the project on. Concerned parent volunteers donated endless hours to create the Dunaway Peace Garden, which has been used to teach environmental and conservation lessons, grow food, and recently became an unofficial bird sanctuary. We had a mallard mother duck that had 12 babies in the garden. I believe all PPS students, no matter what their zip code, deserve schools that provide consistent, standardized sustainability practices and opportunities. I envision all PPS students eating with washable utensils, separating food waste for collection, and benefiting from outdoor education. I envision custodians who have had training to support recycling and composting. I envision solar panels on all new or remodeled school roofs. This will only happen if PPS takes a stronger leadership role. Therefore, I ask that resource conservation programs be implemented in all schools across the district, with support from staff and administration, as well as concrete written district policies so that all children can access these learning opportunities. The board already has a resource conservation policy. Thank you. It asks facilities and asset management write a resource conservation plan and train students, custodians, teachers, principals, and others as appropriate to ensure conservation accountability. I support the Portland Eco School Network proposal to form a working group to begin the process of drafting a resource conservation plan, to add an additional FTE to support this work, and to conduct a district-wide waste audit to provide baseline data to this group to identify areas of highest need of improvement. Implementing the board's policy has the potential to bring about cost savings, increase equity, align the district with the city's climate action goals, and most importantly, show Portland students that their actions matter because adults are taking these issues seriously. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Beth Melnick. I'm the mother of a 6th grader at Irvington. Our son is a special ed child. He's also a child of color. There's a lot of conversation in our district about equity, and SWIFT has come in as very important to that conversation. All right, it's okay. Take your time. Thank you. You know, there are so many needs in the district, and I know you all are doing your very best. I really do, and I appreciate it, and I want to say that to you because it's a hard job what you do, but it's a hard job what we as parents do, especially as parents with special ed kids. Every October, you change the game on us. It's like being Charlie Brown to your Lucy. I mean, every year. I don't even know what to say to you anymore. I've begged, I've done all these things, but this year we had a really good year, and my son came home and said, I'm being successful. And he's being successful because we almost had enough on the ground, boots on the ground support for the SWIFT program. The push-in was terrible in the fall. His grades were terrible. We got everybody together. We worked even harder. We got David Jacobson, who you guys call an FTE, but who is actually a brilliant young teacher. And you've cut him. He's been cut. He's been cut, and the para has been cut. He's been cut only in half, but he needs to support his family, so he needs a full-time job. So we are going to lose the consistency, which is what these children need more than anything else. You may not use your standard budgetary rules for numbers and children with special ed children. They're very different. They need transitional time. 3 years ago, you took away his special ed teacher in 2 days. I don't know if it's you, but the budgetary system took away his special ed teacher. He was, these kids have no one teaching them who they're going to talk to next, no one who knows their program. This is consistent, and the lack of planning in relation to these transitions for our children, whether we stay K through 5 or go to Tubman, in 2 years. My child is again, oh, we're in transition again, so you're going to be the fodder for the next thing. I'm kind of done with that. And I really implore you to leave a good teacher who's a full-time teacher and the para in position. You guys have been garnering a lot of attention for PPS with this pilot program with SWIFT, but it's not going to be functional if you take away the boots on the ground. And what I've heard is that that administrators will be funded in this building for SPED. I don't believe that's the way to support our children. We need people on the ground in the classroom with our kids, or your SWIFT program is just another good idea. And I really don't have any more to say because I was trying not to be emotional, but it's really hard.
Tom?
Thank you. Yeah. Go ahead, Steve.
Could I ask a question? Yes. Were you talking 1 FTE or 1.5?
Well, first of all, I want to encourage you to start calling these people teachers and stop calling them by FTDs and .5s. I think it's just appalling. It's demoralizing. And to our children, to our teachers, and to our staff who work so hard, And furthermore, it's one teacher, but it's also, we lost a para. And we need everybody we can get in those classrooms. There really aren't enough to serve it right now, and I would say that we've had good luck because the teachers work so hard. And we love them so much. And you know, you do whatever you want with Tubman or Irvington or whatever you're gonna do. It's whatever. But I think it's an equity problem, again, there, that you're just not supporting. And I'm sorry, I could talk forever. It's one teacher, one full-time teacher that you're making a part-time teacher. Give that guy his job
Okay,
next year, at least
and
during
then
the transition.
And then the para, which is okay. So
Yeah,
that-
and give that, well, the
so-
para should stay too,
so-
quite
Right,
frankly.
but it'd be a
They-
total of one total teacher
Well, you-
would handle both of the requests. Correct?
I don't,
Sounds like a
No,
teacher.
you
I
gotta
think we
have
need
to
a
make-
teacher
go
and a
from
para.
one to a half-time, then you put the teacher back.
we put the
from
teacher to a
half-
full-time
to a full-time.
and
That's
get
a-
our, and give our
that's a
para
half of
back.
a
and
full-time
give-
teacher.
Yeah, because,
And
you
then
know,
the para, which is
which is
budgeted
not very
for.
expensive anyway,
Was
so.
budgeted for,
I
so
mean-
it's only one FTE.
Yeah.
One FTE, and
One
I've been a teacher for 40
total.
years, and I kind of think FTE is what I end up, how
I
we talking
understand,
about
but
it, okay?
as a parent, it's annoying. But anyway, one teacher and one para,
Thank you.
and let that teacher be a full-time teacher because they can't do the job with half a person.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we have Kim Leithley and Tim Schultz.
Hi, good evening, Mr. Chairman, School Board, and Superintendent Smith. My name is Kim Leithley, and I get to follow Beth on a similar topic, but I'm going to tell the story in my experience. So my son is a bright and curious and athletic fourth grader at Irvington, currently at Irvington, and he has dyslexia and ADHD, which are educational learning disabilities. Last year, at a different PPS school with a typical special education program, my son was sent to the principal's office nearly 100 days out of the 175 days of school. That's 3 out of every 5 days on average he was in the principal's office. The teacher was overwhelmed with over 30 kids in her classroom. She didn't have time to explain instruction to kiddos who needed different instruction or different attention, certainly not able at all to do any kind of differentiated instruction for the wide range of kids in the classroom. And effectively managing behavior for all the kids was tough. Also, in this environment, my kiddo was pulled out of the classroom daily for special ed, but very brief special ed instruction. It was completely ineffective. For him, it was distracting, disruptive. He missed instruction and content from the teacher, and it stigmatized him socially. So the consequence of all this, for my kiddo, he lost nearly a year of instruction, which puts him even further behind academically. He was embarrassed, he hated school, and in my view, he was on a one-way trip to the statistic that I think we all know. So the statistic that really is heart-wrenching for me is kids with educational disabilities have the lowest graduation rate of kids with all disabilities. So nationally, 35% of kids, just like my son, only 35% graduate from high school. So that's what we were staring down the barrel of. And I heard about Irvington's SWIFT program. It's a special education program that is an inclusion model. And what this means is educational services are delivered in the classroom where the general ed teacher and the special ed teacher are partners. And so I decided to make a change. And so here's the difference that it made. This model made. My son has not been to the principal's office one time. 100 times, one time. Not once. He's stayed in the classroom, he's learned with and from other kids, he helps other kids now, he's close to grade level, he's engaged in school, feels successful, and most importantly, he loves to learn now. So just wrapping up, Irvington's inclusion program not just helps my kid, it helps the general ed kids as well. The kids in those classrooms are more empathetic, they have greater tolerance for diversity, and those who don't qualify for special education services also get support. This is a case where rising tides raise all boats, and I ask you please continue to support in a consistent way this fantastic special ed program. It's made a difference in all of our kids' lives. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for hearing us tonight. I'm here to advocate for funding for year-round intervention for students who are not at grade level, for all PPS students. And that would include after-school and summer programming as well. I bring this up because just today I'm a teacher at Harrison Park, and another teacher came up and asked if she knew of any summer programs for her fourth grade student. And I said that the only programs I know of at Harrison Park are for third grade and for kindergarten. After school today, I had a meeting for one of my students, and the parent asked if there were any summer programs because her child was not at grade level. And I said, I'm sorry, there just is nothing being offered right now. Intervention programs already exist throughout the nation. You can research them. There's great programs around the nation that we could take and learn from and make even better. And there are already a lot of programs that already exist within PPS that can be continued and improved. Programs like Ninth Grade Counts, the Kindergarten Transition Program. There are a lot of great programs. There's also a program that was formerly PDX Summer School. While the organization is not still running, the program still does, or can, as I know how to do that. And that program also has data that shows consistently every year that it improves student learning tremendously. And these summer school programs and after-school programs also provide a lot of structure for our kids. It provides them a place to go after school. It provides them a place to go during the summer that is often much needed and in their lives just for stability as well as to fill in the gaps that they need for their education. A little extra help can go a long way. As a teacher, I work with kids after school all the time, and oftentimes if we had a structured program that was throughout the district and it was coordinated and it had specific goals and aims, it could do incredible good. And there's just a little story. One of my students that I had attended PDX Summer School, and during class one time we were talking about multiplication strategies, and she raised her hand and shared one of the strategies that she had, and I said, Sharon, where did you learn that? She's like, oh, I learned it in PDX Summer School. These are things that kids remember. These are skills and strategies that they need in order to be at grade level. And right now we're sending a lot of kids to the next grade level who are not there, and funding year-round intervention programs will help many kids who truly need it. Thank you.
Thank you, Tim.
Next, we have.
Hold on. We got a question.
When you told the kid there wasn't anything available, we have some summer school programs available.
We do have some summer school.
And-
But
and about how much money?
And
So
all
your
kids are not eligible.
And not all
Right.
kids are not eligible. Tim did
Yeah.
a good description of it. I mean, we've got like a summer school. You're going to hear a good comprehensive description of summer school we do have at your budget work session. So
Now, your summer school, Tim, that you put on, is that the
K5.
PDX?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
What was you had that last year?
Yes.
Were you funded for a certain amount of money last year?
Yes.
How much were you funded for?
I believe $40,000, I think.
40. I was going to say 42.
40,000 funded
It's like
your
40.
summer school?
Yeah.
At Harrison Park? Was
Yeah.
it mostly Harrison Park kids?
It was all Harrison Park kids,
How
yeah.
many kids did you have?
89.
Across all
89
grades?
kids. What's that?
Across all grades.
K5. Because Harrison Park's a K8, and so like the student today, was a fourth grade kid, and the only summer programs being offered are for fifth grade and for kindergarten, so there's a lot of gaps in between.
Did you see, of course, you're going to be a little bit biased on this question, but did you see improvement in the early part of the school year for kids who went to your summer school? In other words, did you have kids, Were you able to say, that kid was in my summer school and look, they're in there trying harder than they used to be? Anything, did you have
Yes,
that?
and I would love to learn some more longitudinal data, and we could do that with support from the district, where we could look and see how the kids that attended the programs do compared to the kids who don't. I can't say any firm data, but I can certainly say
Well, I
that,
don't
you
care
know,
about
some of
the
the kids
data, I
that
just
did-
was asking your opinion.
Oh.
Thank you for thank you for offering it, however. I just want to know what you thought, and it made sense, and so that's great. Thank you very much for coming, Tim. Go ahead.
So what do you define as interventions, in what particular areas then?
In what, I'm sorry?
In like what academic areas or mental
Math
health?
and reading primarily. I would
Math
think.
and reading?
Yeah, yeah. Those are reading especially is the foundation of any kid's any person's education, and yes.
Julie, were you done, Julie?
Yes.
I was trying to get his attention. No, that's okay, Kim. Did you do work in your reading program around filling the phonemic awareness, the phonics
yes.
holes?
Oh, yes.
Did you do that in your reading program?
Yeah,
Did
for
you,
PD
do,
summer school.
did you do, you would take a look and see where the holes were and try and fill them? Is that, did
Very
you do
much so.
that?
Pre and
Did you
post
do that?
data. Be happy to share the data
You did
report
it?
if you'd like to
Well,
see.
why
it.
don't you- that's fine. You can give me a call if you want, and I'll
Yeah.
chat a minute. I'd like to
Be happy
ask you about it, but that sounds terrific. Thank you. Thank you, Tim, for coming.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Danielle Milan and Glynis Lum.
Hello. I'm Danielle Milan. I'm the founding director of Arts and Education for Milagro, which is a Latino cultural center in Southeast Portland. I have been the education director since 1985. Our group tours across the country, regionally and locally. I am the curriculum writer and implement bilingual arts curriculum in schools in the Tri-County area. I recently completed a 2-year study in 6 Portland area schools, which engaged 1,580 students in bilingual arts integration using soccer to teach Mayan mythology. Pre- and post-testing measured improvements in reading fluency and comprehension. When the test scores of all 6 schools were averaged, the results demonstrated a 15% gain in reading fluency and a 59% increase in reading comprehension. Because this approach uses movement and theater in a non-traditional manner and engages students in authentic learning, there's a higher degree of student engagement. Teachers at these schools reported that the exposure to bilingual theater instruction has not only promoted inclusivity and increased student engagement to the school culture, but it has also helped raise student academic achievement. At Scott School, the language arts teacher stated, "I would love for my kids to have more opportunities to use theater and movement in my classroom." And out at Reynolds Middle School, one of the students told the principal, "This was the funnest day of my life." We're currently working on our environmental curriculum for next school year, and the next steps in our program are to further develop these methodologies to adapt to other cultural groups, and also seek assistance in translating the curriculum text into multiple languages. Funding is needed for curriculum development and training of Milagro's teaching staff, and this would support Milagro's ability to provide training for educators in schools throughout Portland Public Schools. Thank you.
Thank you.
Question? Do you have a proposal for us then? A written
Yes,
proposal?
I believe we're asking for $50,000 to support work in schools, in residencies, curriculum development, and providing teacher training throughout the district.
Great, thank you.
Welcome. Oh, you
I just
evening.
wanted, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. So I just want to clarify that when you say, so you've submitted a proposal to PPS for funding? or-
We, no, we're part of a
Is it part of
greater.
the?
Do we already have it?
Is it
budget
part of the
ask.
coalition?
Yes, it is.
That's
Yes.
what Julia was talking about.
Yes, what Julie
So
was
we will
talking about
see
earlier.
something.
Yes,
Got
when
it.
she was talking about her three
That's what I
priority
thought.
areas, and we're in that
You were in that
bilingual, we're in that
group.
bilingual
Okay, got it.
education
All right, I was gonna ask Julia
priority.
about that later. Thanks.
Okay. Got it.
Sorry.
It's okay. Good evening. My name is Glynis Lum, and I am a mother of 2 children at Trillium Charter School. And I'm here today on behalf of the population there, and also here to thank you for remaining open to questioning the equity of the budget, for allocating the equity allocation fund. My son, my oldest son, has high-functioning autism and ADHD. This is always difficult to talk about. I'm so sorry.
Don't be. Okay.
Really, what I'm here to point out is that because we have a public charter school system, these innovative programs are able to exist where a child like my son would fall through the cracks. So a program like Trillium Charter School, which uses an inclusive atmosphere where my child can be in the general education classroom and still be working with a special education teacher from PPS, works on his social capabilities, and also gives him, he's able to gain the strengths with the special education support, which he absolutely wasn't able to do in other situations. We also at Trillium Charter School use restorative justice model, which is part of that innovation that the public charter school is asking us to work out. So what happens is that children who normally would be singled out because of maybe a cultural issue or because of something like having terrible social skills would over time be almost unable to function in the classroom, even with support of a special education teacher. According to state testing data, Trillium Charter School outperformed the district at large in our services of students of color, high poverty students, and special education students in a number of categories, and I can give you that data. And yet, these children are, they're always in danger of falling through the cracks. So if you were to honor this equity, I believe that the numbers say that $18,000 and it would be in the budget for Trillium, Kairos, and SEI. And that for us means a teacher that would stay more than 2 years. And for my child, that makes a huge, huge difference. And I know that children of color and children who are underserved normally, even at our school, benefit from that. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Drew Stevens?
I just want to comment on one thing that you said at the end, which was very subtle, which was drawing attention to the high rate of turnover in our charter schools because of the low teacher pay.
Ready?
Yeah.
Good evening. My name is Drew Stevens. My son, Miles, is a second grader at Grout Elementary School, and my daughter will start kindergarten next year. I wish I were here to say that our school doesn't have funding for an art teacher or for a full-time gym teacher, which we don't. I'm actually here to say that we don't have funding for something more elemental, and I'm here to represent 144 students and their families, as well as our 5 current second and third grade teachers, to say that we lack funding for a third grade teacher next year. We have 78 kids in third grade and 2 third grade teachers. That puts us at 39 kids per teacher. Our school's current plan is to ask one of our second grade teachers to teach a split class for second and third grade. And that leaves still over 28 students per class in second and third grade, and that's the highest ratio among any Title I school. Sorry, excuse me. We have a lot of concerns about a second-third split, especially at a Title I school and with 28 kids in the class. I won't share those here, but I would like to share them with you via email or however else later. My research shows that there are at least 2 other schools in this system that have the same problem, and that's Creston and Fabian. Both are going to be facing 28 kids plus in a class with split level grades. There are a host of challenges to this setup. So I'm here to ask that PPS will stand by its commitment to close the achievement gap and properly fund our Title I schools. Rosa Parks is a great example of a Title I school with adequate funding, and I hope that we can get all of our Title I schools to that level. I ask that PPS locate the funding for 1 teacher at Grout to relieve the class size and the grade splitting problem. And if my research is accurate, Creston will need 2 teachers to do the same, and Fabian will need 1 teacher to do the same. So 4 teachers across 3 schools can make a huge difference for hundreds of kids and their families. Basic grade level instruction must be paramount in the budget process. And class size among all of our schools is overstuffed. And so going forward, I hope to ask that PPS can cap Title I classes at 24 students per classroom teacher. And perhaps within 5 years, maybe we can reach a goal of 24 students per classroom teacher in all elementary schools.
Thank you.
But not in Gravit. That's ratio, though, not class size. Right.
Is that it?
We're done?
That's
No
it.
more?
Anybody else would like to come? Wow, going good. All right, thank you all for coming. Appreciate it. Budget committee is adjourned.